Hello and welcome to episode 8, the latest Hey United Talk podcast. Just to start, as Jordan was unable to attend this week, we've got a brand new guest on the show making his debut. He's been an avid listener of the Hey United Talk podcast since the beginning, so I thought it'd be a great opportunity to introduce Kieran. Kieran, welcome to Hey United Talk.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, we've got some great topics this week, so as usual, we'll get on to things straight away. So I hope you all enjoy the episode. The key topics that we're going to be discussing this week are the Stoke City performance on Monday evening, the main one, which is obviously Alexis Sanchez. We've got a new feature this week, just a small Q&A for both myself and Kieran, and that's something that I'm just trialling out. So we'll get on to that later, and then we'll finish with a preview of Burnley away on Saturday. So to begin, United defeated Stoke by 3-0 on Monday evening on a very wet and miserable night at Old Trafford. Again, travelled to Old Trafford in midweek and it rained again. I think every midweek game I've been to has absolutely poured down, so it wasn't great conditions, but 3 great goals, 3 big points. What did you make of the performance on Monday night, Kieran?
Well, we've had some great performances this season at Old Trafford, but I honestly think last night was one of the best, if not probably the best performance of the season so far. I thought from start to finish we just dominated play. We kept hold of the ball really well. We really bossed it in midfield. It's a performance that reminded me of sort of the early games in the season, particularly the West Ham at home, the opening game, the first away match we had at Swansea, and then we had a really good performance against Everton the early part of the season. And I think yesterday's performance was similar to those, really, where games where we've not only just scored goals but also dictated most of the play. The only difference being, I guess, Stoke did have their chances early on. We seemed to struggle to deal with Crouch in the first half. Phil Jones got that decent block against Choupo-Moting, and Stephen Ireland really should have put his chance away. But we punished them after that with that second goal right before half time, and there just seemed to be no going back from the away side, really. It was a joy to watch from the second half onwards. I also thought it was a game that really did signify Paul Pogba's quality. He was just superb from start to finish. His control of the ball in the midfield. He was just finding passes left, right, centre, long, short. Much like the previous games against Derby in the FA Cup and Everton at Goodison Park, I thought he was superb there as well. And I think since his return from suspension, he's probably having his best run ever in the team. And the last few games have showed just how well the team plays, when he's on top form.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the starting 11 last night, when I seen it come out, I thought that was probably our strongest 11 out of the players that are fit. To be honest, I think the only change that I would make at the moment would be buy in for Smalling. So I was pretty pleased with the starting 11 last night. Last week, myself and Jordan discussed the formation options and whether Jose would go for the 4-3-3 or would he go back to the 4-2-3-1, and it seemed that we did start the game with a sort of flexible 4-3-3 formation. Lingard was dropping in and out of midfield, but the second half we did go back to the 4-2-3-1 and Lingard pushed into the number 10. What did you make of, first of all, the lineup and the formation?
Yeah, it was a really strong starting 11. I think Jose didn't want to take too many chances after sort of Chelsea dropping points on the weekend and also Liverpool's somewhat unexpected victory at home to City, which means they're right on our tails now more than ever. So yeah, it was a really strong starting 11, full of energy and pace. I think the players look really refreshed. Obviously, we haven't played for 10 days since the FA Cup victory at Derby, and they've been on a warm weather training camp in between games, and I think it really showed yesterday that we were quick. We passed the ball very well. We looked very dangerous in the final third, and yeah, I agree. I think there's maybe only Eric Bailly would potentially come into the team when all are fully fit. Obviously, Rashford has had a slight dip in form recently. Well, certainly in front of goal, that's for sure. So Mata seems to have got the nod over him at the moment, but I thought Mata was class yesterday. Although he perhaps should have scored in the second half after that lovely layer from Lingard. And another thing that I thought was interesting was that Ander Herrera, who, in my opinion, was out and out man of the match against Derby. I thought he played brilliantly, protecting their back four in the absence of Matic. But I think it just showed by him dropping to the bench after playing so well that it was a clear indicator of what I think Mourinho values as his strongest team, and maybe his preferred formation. Luke Shaw has been somewhat a revelation over the last few games, and he chose to start him at left back last night as opposed to in that sort of a more attacking position in the left of the midfield four. But again, he played really well yesterday, and long may his form continue. And I just hope he can stay fully fit now until the end of the season, because as shown, he can make a difference when fully fit, and he's well and truly repaying the manager's faith in him. And yeah, I love the flexibility of reverting back from 4-3-3 up to that 4-2-3-1 again, particularly when we got that second goal. And we didn't close the game off. Then we came out the second half all guns blazing. We wanted more, and we looked like we were going to get more as well. So it was a great formation choice, I think, and a great selection out there.
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, that we have the flexibility to switch between the two formations, the 4-3-3 and the 4-2-3-1. They each provide different strengths and different qualities. As I said last week, I think the 4-2-3-1 makes complete sense at home against the poorer Premier League sides, such as Stoke, as it allows the extra creative player to drop in there, like Mata last night. Like you said, I thought he played very well. And he has done for the past month. So yeah, I think the opportunity to switch between the formations is very good, and I think the 4-2-3-1 definitely at home against the bottom half teams is worth its while. But I do like the 4-3-3. I think in the longer term, if we can get a better central midfield player to replace Herrera alongside Pogba, then it could be really good for United. So I think it's good to have both now, and then also obviously we have the option to go to the 3 or the 5 at the back, as we've played before. So it's good that we've got those options. Talking about the game, United took the lead around the 10-minute mark with an absolute rocket from Valencia with his left foot, which was, I think, surprised everyone inside Old Trafford and everyone watching at home. I've hardly ever seen Valencia use his left foot, never mind produce something with that quality and that amount of power. It was right in the top corner, so it was a brilliant goal, and it sort of got us going. The last few home games, we've struggled. I think we were 2-0 down against Burnley. At half time we were 0-0 against Southampton. It was 0-0 against Derby, so to get that early goal was important. The game then quieted down for a while, and Stoke had a few good chances. Like you said before, I thought Crouch looked a threat, and Stephen Ireland had a couple of chances that we probably were fortunate to get away with. I think it was just a bit of lack of concentration from the defence. But just before half time, a bit of brilliance from Pogba to play the pass to Martial on the edge of the box, who finished brilliantly first time. I thought that was a fantastic goal. And it just proves, if you take your chances, how much a difference it can make, because I think at times last season and at times this season we've played a lot better than we did in the first half, and we've gone in at half time at 0-0. But this time we took our chances, we went in at half time 2-0 up, and it makes such a difference, doesn't it, Kieran?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think the key point you mentioned there, which I totally agree with, is the fact that second goal, right for half time, it really did kill the game off of Stoke. They barely came out the dressing room in the second half, and yeah, there's been many games this season where we've gone into half time frustrated at not being able to break the deadlock and not be able to get that first goal. But both strikes yesterday, as you said, were absolutely unstoppable. Valencia using his left foot. I agree. The amount of years he's played at United, I've never really seen him use that. He's got a rocket of a right foot, but it just came out of nothing.
Yeah.
Martial's finish was also equally as brilliant. Lovely there from Pogba, who again was superb last night. And going into half-time 2-0, I think was nothing more than we deserved, and it does make an absolute difference. If we refer back to last season, where there were times where we only went up 1-0 at half-time, particularly at home. We get like the likes of Bournemouth and Swansea, but we ended up drawing them games, and then there were games of plenty as well. So yesterday was the all-round perfect performance. Going into half-time 2-0, nothing more than we deserved, with two great strikes, and yeah, it clearly does make the big difference. And I hope that we can take that mentality in the second half of the season now and just show that if we really do get a start, on the right foot, and get one or two goals before half time, particularly at home, we really should be winning games comfortably.
Yeah. And I thought the second half we came out and we played very well, a lot better than the first half. It could have and probably should have been more than 3, but we'll take 3 goals. last week on the show I predicted 4-0, so I wasn't far away. It probably should have been 4. I think Matt had a good chance and Lingard had a good chance. There was a few more good chances, but it wasn't meant to be. And as you mentioned before, I thought the team looked quite refreshed. The mood seemed to be quite good and bright following the break in Dubai, and I think the players will reap the benefits from that, because just to get away for a week and to work with the players and just to get that team bonding going, I think it's definitely worthwhile. And I thought the mood amongst the players last night and even Jose was good. I think towards at the end of the second half, Mourinho even acknowledged the crowd, acknowledged the Stretford end, which is good to see. I don't think I've seen him do that in his time. So that was good. And I think we've got 3 away games on the bounce now, with trips to Burnley, Yeovil and Tottenham, which is going to be tough. So hopefully the players can gain some momentum from this. So on to the bigger news this week. I was actually very frustrated last week because we recorded the episode 7 on the Wednesday, and then Thursday all the news came out about Sanchez, and in the episode we discussed a large part on Lucas Moura, who's now not even being mentioned in the fold. So that was very frustrating. But yeah, it all came out about Sanchez, and we're hearing that he's going to be a United player very soon. It seems nailed on. So Kieran, firstly, are you excited by Alexis Sanchez, and do you think he'll fit into United?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about the prospect of a player of Sanchez's quality coming to United. You know, he's easily been Arsenal's best player over the last 2 or 3 seasons. I've rated him ever since he was at Barcelona. And you know, when he left Barcelona to make way for Suarez, I knew Arsenal were getting a top player then, and they have done really in that time. He scores goals. He's quick. He's tenacious. He creates a lot of chances. He's got that South American flair that you don't often see in players these days, but he still has that swagger about him and that arrogance and that confidence that maybe we're lacking up top. And I think personally he'll fit into the United mould very well. You know, literally anywhere in that front line of 3, if we are going to play 4-2-3-1, if we revert back to a 3-4-3 or indeed a 4-3-3, I guess, you know, we could easily fit in the right or left of the centre forward. And you know, regarding the deal, if what I've read is accurate, we really can't argue with the deal and the money we're paying for him. I think it's even sweeter the fact that we're snatching him right from under Arsene Wenger's nose as well. So I think this could be a big turning point for our season if we do manage to get him, and I think he will make a big difference because, you know, like I said, he scores goals, he creates. He's just a real presence. He's coming into United knowing teams of the Premier League know of his quality, so it'll strike fear into the opposition. And I think it'd be great fit for United personally.
Yeah, good stuff. And my thoughts on this, to be honest, I'm absolutely buzzing that Alexis Sanchez is it looks all but certain to be a United player. I think the move just makes sense, and there's a few points I'd like to raise on why I think the deal is perfect for United. And the first one is because there's been some people this week who are saying that we shouldn't sign him and stuff, and I don't really quite get it. So I've got 3 points really. The first one is basically in the modern day market, we're getting probably £100 million quality player for 30 million or even less. It doesn't look like it's going to be any more than 30-40 million. So we're getting a £100 million player for less than half price. Or even a straight swap for Mkhitaryan, who might not even pay anything. We'll just have to see what happens with that. So that's the first point, and it's an opportunity that we can't turn down, as Jose even admitted in his press conference on Friday, calling Alexis a phenomenal player. Secondly, Sanchez can play in the Champions League. Not many people might know this, but he can play in the Champions League and he can play in the FA Cup, which are the 2 trophies that we're still, theoretically in. I didn't know until last week, but you are allowed to swap one player over from the Europa League to the Champions League, so that would be Alexis for us, clearly, which is a massive benefit because, like I said, we're still in the Champions League. We've got Sevilla. You would expect us to get through. We're in the last 8, and Sanchez could certainly help us in that competition. Sanchez didn't play at Arsenal's FA Cup defeat in Nottingham Forest, so he's also eligible for that. So I think that's a massive benefit because mostly when you get quality players in January, they can't normally play in Europe in the cup competition, so that is a big benefit for us. And thirdly, and the last point I'd like to emphasise to the people that are doubting the signing of Alexis Sanchez, we have the potential in our front line. We've got Rashford, who's 20, Martial, 21, Lukaku, 24, and these three players could be in our side for the next decade. I'm not even including Lingard, 25, so these players could be at United for the next 8, 10 years, and so we've got the potential, but we need a when and now player, and that was who Mkhitaryan was meant to be. 29, he's meant to be in his prime, and I think Alexis just fits in that area perfectly. You know, we've got the youngsters with Rashford, Martial, Lukaku, even Lingard, and then you've got Alexis, who's proven quality to just slide in there and help them out. So I think it just makes complete sense. But adding a world-class player into our front line, it has to make a difference. And I think with Sanchez, it'll obviously increase the fluidity of the team, because as you mentioned before, Kieran, he can play left, he can play right, he can play number 10, he can play up front if we needed him to. So he's got the flexibility, and I think regardless of where Sanchez plays, especially at home, he'll be drifting in and out of positions, drifting into the number 10, drifting out wide. And I think with Lingard, Martial, it could be a really exciting front line. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree entirely. He'll bring a certain fluidity across that front line. He's perhaps a bit more versatile than the talent we've got up top at present. Seems to be happy to play anywhere, and he seems to cause a lot of damage, whether he plays in that right, left, or central position, whether it be number 10 or up front. He's a player who knows where the goal is. I think one of the reasons he's done really well at Arsenal is Wenger seems to give him a bit of a free role. Wenger's obviously in no doubt of his quality. And I think that if we are going to slot him in that front line somewhere, we should probably emulate and be receptive to how Arsenal play him. Maybe allow him a bit more of a free role. If that's the way of getting the best out of him, then so be it. Because we know the guy can play football. He's a magician with the ball at his feet. So if we are going to get the best out of him, then we should try and play him as Arsenal have. Like I said, in my opinion, he's been one of the best players in the league over the last few seasons, maybe along with Hazard or Coutinho and maybe Harry Kane. So we really are going to get a player of the highest quality and the highest level, and I'm really excited. I think this would probably be our biggest bargain since Robin van Persie. No trend there, I guess, where they come from.
Yeah, agree entirely, and I think it looks like Mkhitaryan could be going the other way. What do you make of Mkhitaryan leaving, and does it bother you that much?
If I'm honest, I think my views might differ a lot here to a lot of United fans out there. It would bother me a little bit. I personally would like to see Mkhitaryan stay. I'd rather we pay the money for Sanchez, whether it be 30, 35 million. Like you said before, he's in today's market, he's £100 million quality player. We're getting him for a third of that, if that. Mm-hmm. Admittedly, Mkhitaryan's form has been it's been close to dire this season, and I know it's been a hot topic on this podcast between yourself and Jordan. And yeah. I agree with everything you've said. He's had a very up and down career at United. It started off very poorly, and then last season he got that goal against Tottenham at home, won us the game, and then his career his season just started to take on from there. Really, I thought he was brilliant in the latter half of the season, particularly in the Europa League, where I think he was our top scorer. Obviously, scored in the final. Yep. His form at Dortmund, he was their player of the season. But if Arsenal want him and we have to use him as leverage as part of the deal, then I guess so be it. We can't really overlook a player of Sanchez's quality go. If Mkhitaryan hates the deal, then let him go and we'll get Sanchez in return. But personally, I would like to keep Mkhitaryan, and because I think he's a quality player. He's just a player who lacks. He's a confidence player at the moment. His form's dipped, but hopefully there's no reason to say that can't come back. So if Mkhitaryan goes, he goes. Good luck to him. Arsenal will be getting a top player, I think.
Yep.
Not a form player at the moment. His form's dipped at the moment, but they'll be getting a player of good quality. Personally, I think it'd be best for United if we buy Sanchez and have the luxury of having both of them. Personally.
Yep. Okay. Personally. Not too bothered. I think that speaks volumes, really. But I think you've got to give a bit of credit for him, because As you mentioned, he did really well in the Europa League, had some great games, and I think he scored 7 or 8 goals in the Europa League campaign last year. So I think he is a great player. Yes, a confidence player, but there's just been times where he hasn't cut it, and I think the big shadow that hangs over him is that he just hasn't quite really done it in a big game. I know he scored in the final, and he did score against Tottenham at home last season, but especially away, I'm not sure. So if he left, I wouldn't be too bothered. I think he's a good player to include in the deal because it could be the bait that Arsenal will take to seal the deal, and it gets him off the wage bill. I think it's just to reiterate though. I think at this time, Sanchez hasn't signed. Mkhitaryan still is a United player, but it is looking very likely. And hopefully next week he will be a United player before next week's episode. So moving on to the new section, Q&A. So just to give a bit of background, I thought it would be something new to the podcast. This is the 8th episode, so I thought I'd bring something new in just to see how it goes. And it's up to you, the listeners, to provide a few questions each week to basically bring to us, the host. So whether it's me or Kieran, me and Jordan, whoever it may be on that week. So usually we'll do about 3 or 4 questions, depending on how many we get. So the first one from Ben is, who do you think would be the next United youngster to break through into the first team squad? Kieran, what do you think on that?
I think Timothy Fosu-Mensah, he had a little run in the first team under Van Gaal. He's now on loan at Crystal Palace. He's having a really good season. I really hope that it's the making of him, and that he comes back next season and he's able to break into the first team. So I think Fosu-Mensah's got a good chance. Yep. Obviously, we've got Axel Ranzabi, he's got a lot of promise. But the problem with Ranzabi is, it's not with him. I think it's with Mourinho, really. I don't think Mourinho rates him. Personally, he uses him really sporadically. The only time we'll bring him on is if we're 2-0 up in a League Cup tie where the game's dead and buried, unless we're really short. So I wouldn't mind seeing Ranzabi go out on loan the way Fosu-Mensah has, and the way Jesse Lingard did, a few seasons ago. I think that would be a great experience for him. So, it's a good question, really. I think Fosu-Mensah will be the next youngster's breakthrough.
Yeah, just on Twanzebe, I think Mourinho did mention in his press conference that he could go out on loan for the rest of the season. He did say that he's a talented boy, so I think he does rate him. It's just getting him a first team opportunity. We have a lot of centre backs, and I think this summer a couple of them need to go. I mean, we've got Bailly, Jones, Smalling, Rojo, Blind. I mean, they can all play there. So I think to send him out on loan, yes, but he did say in his press conference that Twanzebe would go on loan towards the end of the window just to see what was happening with the current injury situation. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. My opinion, I've got to agree. I know he did say to exclude these, but I think Fosu-Mensah's got to be a long-term replacement for Valencia. Very similar build, similar types of players. I think Fosu-Mensah will be a great Valencia replacement. But go right into the academy. Personally, I don't think he can look much further than Angel Gomez. Yes, young, but he captained the under-17s at the World Cup, a winning captain as well, and Tahith Chong as well, who's doing very, very well for the under-18. So I think them two have got a good chance, and in the next, and maybe not this season, but hopefully next season we'll start to see them appear on the bench a bit more and getting the opportunity. So either Gomez or Chong would be my opinion, excluding either Twanzebe or Fosu-Mensah. I'll just get the next question. So next question: 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. If you had the choice, Kieran, what would you go for?
I think I'd probably go 4-2-3-1. I just think with it's a formation that where because Pogba starts a bit deeper with Matic, he receives the ball deeper, and the way he's played recently, where receiving the ball from deep finding passes left, right, and centre the way very similar to how Scholes did back in the day. But he can run the ball, he can drive forward. I think there's having that bit of a gap between the deep line midfielder and the attack gives Pogba a bit more of a freer role. So I think we get the best out of Pogba when he plays alongside Matic. So similarly, got that little bit of extra quality up top with having the luxury of two wide forwards, whether it be Rashford, Martial, Mata, Mkhitaryan, and having the centre forward as well with a number 10, whether it be Lingard or Rashford or Mata. We've got a lot of versatile forwards up there who. So I'd probably just edge it with 4-2-3-1, but I think both do work definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I like both formations. Both got the strengths, both got the weaknesses. At the moment, I would probably go 4-3-3. I don't know. I think we get the best out of Pogba in the 4-3-3. I think at Everton we played the 4-3-3 and he was left-sided. Like he played in Juventus in a 3 and he played the left side of midfield. And I think it just gives him that bit more freedom when he knows it's not just him covering Matic. If we've got a Herrera in there, I think we'll get the best out of Pogba there. But I know he played very well last night. But I think the 4-3-3 at the moment, I think I'll probably go for. Especially away from home. Maybe at home 4-2-3-1, but I think away from home 4-3-3. And if we sign another quality midfielder alongside Matic and Pogba, I definitely think 4-3-3 with Lukaku up front, and then you've got the choice of wingers of Lingard, Martial, Rashford, and hopefully Alexis. So yeah, I think I'll go 4-3-3. Next question: which United player has impressed you the most so far this season?
Up until Christmas, I think I'd have probably gone Martial. He's been Martial or Matic. I'd say Matic's been a great signing. Martial he had a bit of a second season syndrome last season, but he's played really well this season. He's created a lot. He's scored a lot. He's looking as dangerous as he was the first time we saw him when he scored that brilliant goal against Liverpool. But honestly, I'm going to say Luke Shaw. I think given the injury setback he's had in his career, at the start of the season, I thought he was out, down and out, but he really has rectified his United career when he was given the opportunity. Having Ashley Young be suspended, I think, has helped him come into the side, and he's come on leaps and bounds since he's been given his opportunities. So yeah, Luke Shaw really has impressed me these last few games, and like I said earlier, I hope that long may that continue. So I'll probably go Luke Shaw. Okay.
For me, I couldn't look past Lingard. I think Lingard's took everyone by surprise. He scored 11 goals. I think we've covered Lingard quite a bit on the podcast in the last few weeks, but for me, he's been brilliant. I think he's took the fans, and I think everyone's took to him this season. He was a kind of bit part player, but he's definitely in the strongest starting 11 now, and for me it'd have to be Lingard. His goals, his movement, his creativity. He's done it at Arsenal, he's done it in the bigger games, so yeah, I would go Lingard for me.
Got us out of jail against Burnley as well, so absolutely. Yeah, it's had a brilliant season.
Yeah. Okay, final. Oh no, one more. Oh no, two more. Sorry. For your favourite ever United player you've seen play live and why?
A really tough question. I had the pleasure when I was really, really young of seeing Eric Cantona. He was actually the first match I ever went to against Tottenham Hotspur in 1996. He scored the winning goal, and it was in his penultimate season. He retired the season after, and the little I saw of him, he was just a joy to watch, even when you're for a young United fan.
Yeah.
But I'd have to say Ronaldo. I think in that sort of late noughties era where we were winning leagues, Champions Leagues, and he was the real spearhead amongst that silverware. He was just fantastic. There's so many games where he scored 2-3 goals, effortless goals as well. I never thought he'd leave United and have a better career anywhere else, but how wrong was I? He's done absolutely fantastic at Madrid. Yeah, one of the best ever players, I think, and one of not just at United but ever, in my opinion. And that's not me being a biased United fan. His record speaks for himself. So yeah, I'd probably just edge it with Ronaldo.
Yeah, I think most that know me on Twitter would will know that I'm going to go for the same. It's got to be Ronaldo. My name on Twitter here, United Sing, is from the lyrics of Ronaldo's song. So, yeah, Ronaldo all day long. Brilliant, and the reason why is just brilliant. Every time we got the ball, running at defenders, direct, left foot, right foot, head, scoring goals, amazing. I was at the Moscow Champions League final 2008 when Terry slipped, and obviously Ronaldo got the goal that night, and that was just a memory that I'll never forget. So yeah, it's got to be Ronaldo for me. Okay, last question. We've had a few on Sanchez, so I'll kind of tie this question in. How will arrival of Sanchez benefit slash affect the team, and how could it and what impact could it potentially have on United's Champions League campaign?
Well, I think it'll only strengthen it. As you mentioned, he is eligible to play in the Champions Leagues. He's a player of proven quality. He's done it in the Champions League before with Arsenal and Barca. He's never really gone much further with Arsenal. Hopefully he'll get a bit further with us ourselves. And when it comes to the Champions League, we've got the perfect manager who, if we are going to win, it's going to be under Mourinho. He's won it with worse squads, with Porto in 2004. I think the Inter squad as well was probably no better than what we have this season. So he's only going to enhance our chances of winning it, and our chances will be dramatically increased if he does sign. So yeah, it'll be big impact. And
Yeah. I mean, you would hope that it would be a big impact. Like I said, he can play left, he can play right, he can play number 10, he can play striker. So I think even though we're just signing one player, he can play in 4 different positions. So I think that's a major positive thing for United. Regarding the Champions League, yeah, I think we should get past Sevilla and then into the last 8, I think, which is where we'll need him most. We could face Madrid, PSG, we could even face City or Liverpool. So he's the type of player that we need in those games, because at the highest level you need a player like Sanchez to deliver on the biggest stage. So yeah, I think he'll have a good impact. I don't know on what scale, but that just depends how far we get. But yeah, I think he can only help in terms of that. So moving to the final section of the podcast, United's next game is a trip to Burnley on Saturday in a very rare 3 p.m. kickoff for United. We rarely have a Saturday 3 p.m. these days, so that's nice to have, I suppose. Burnley have massively overachieved. Well, I wouldn't say massively, but they've definitely overachieved this season. They gave us a huge scare on Boxing Day, as you mentioned before, and if it wasn't for Lingard, we would have lost that game. So there's no way this game's going to be easy. I think Burnley away is never easy, and we've never really made it that easy. I know we won there last year, but I do feel Burnley's form is starting to dwindle a little bit, and as the games start to ramp up towards the end of the season, I do feel that they'll drop off a little bit. But I think we're playing well. 3 clean sheets in a row. We're playing quite fluidly, and I think we're over the hangover of the Derby defeat now, the Manchester Derby defeat. So I'm pretty confident, even though I do say there's most games. But I think we're in a good moment right now. I know, like I said before, the mood seems good. A good break in Dubai. It also seems that Mourinho's about the club are about to announce that Mourinho's just signed a new deal. So I think things are good, and I think we're in a good moment. So I think we'll win. How do you think the game will go on Saturday, Kieran?
Well, Burnley are somewhat of a bogey team for United. Every season they've been in the Premier League, we've never actually managed to beat them twice. They've always managed a draw or a victory, either home or away.
All right, I didn't know that.
Yeah. As you've stated, they've already achieved that feat this season on Boxing Day, a match where we were really poor. I remember actually in the first season of the Premier League, their first victory came against United. Robbie Blake scored a goal when they beat us 1-0. And but as you said, their form has taken a dip recently. But still, I don't think they're to be underestimated. They've already taken points at Old Trafford this season, and they've beaten the champions away this season. The first game of the season, they beat Chelsea. They've got one of the best managers in the league in Sean Dyche. And I think over time he's sort of tailored this Burnley side to compete more in the top league, unlike in previous seasons where I remember you tend to play the same 11 week in, week out, but he seems starting to rotate his team a bit more these days, and he signed some really good players, some good ball players in Defoe and Hendrick. They'll pose a big threat with the ball at their feet, and they've re-signed Jack Court from Swansea, who's protects the back four. He's been a big help for them this season. Sam Vokes is always a threat up top. I remember when Vokes was at Wolves, he caused problems at Molyneux one time, and so yeah, we have to be careful, and we can't be complacent in any way. But we're playing them at a good time where, like, their form's dipped and our form seems to be on the up. So I think we're playing them at a good time, but still, it'll be a tough game because this is the best Burnley side that the Premier League's ever seen. So it's not to be underestimated at all.
Yeah, and what do you think their key threats are that we need to watch out for?
Well, they play quite direct, don't they? And they've got players up top who can head the ball. The likes of Ashley Barnes, Sam Vokes, but they've got some good set piece players as well. Players who can deliver a good ball, like Defoe. Goodmanson has got an evil whip at him. So
we've struggled with set pieces this season as well, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, so we have to be careful with their set plays, and I think they do score a lot from corners. And they're a tenacious team. They'll have the home side backing against them, and historically they have been, they rely on the home form. So like I said, we're playing them at a good time. So we just got to maintain our good form of late, and just try and deal with the long balls, try and deal with the balls coming in the box and set pieces as best we can, and again, just keep playing attacking football. I know we're playing away from home, but we played away from Everton and played very well there. And I think, as you mentioned, the formation was different at Everton, and Pogba did play a bit wider, but I think he was equally as effective. He was still, brilliant at the ball with his feet. So, maybe a similar setup could work.
Yeah. I think when I was writing the agenda for this podcast, I think it looked like Alexis could have been done in time. Now I'm not so sure. Things can change very quickly, but if he did sign, I don't think he'd start, but I think he would be on the bench and may come off the bench if he was available. Speaking completely hypothetically, he might not even be a United player, but it would be good to see Sanchez, because Burnley away won't be an easy game, and I think a player like Sanchez could unlock the door. I think he scored last minute there this season for Arsenal, in fact.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So that would be good if we could get it over the line, but it just seems like we need to get Mkhitaryan out as quick as possible to make it happen. In terms of the starting lineup, what would you go for? Would you go near enough unchanged?
Yeah, I think so. On the quality of the performance against Stoke, I think that would be wise. But certainly stick with the back four. Definitely, we'll need. I think Smalling will be key to deal with the likes of Barnes and Vokes. But yeah, I wouldn't change a lot from Monday. I'd be happy with the same teams. The players look refreshed. I don't see how he can drop anybody from that team on current form. We really have started the year with a bang, and I just hope it can continue the way we started. And these tests against the likes of Burnley, who, despite having a different form, are having a really good season by all intents and purposes. Spurs away as well come the end of the month. We've got some tough games coming up, so this will be a real test now, just to see if we can maintain this great start to the year.
Yeah, I think I'd near enough go and change, to be honest. I think the only change I would maybe bring in would be Herrera for Mata, just to bring in that extra protection to the midfield and play the 4-3-3, similar to what we did at Everton, and just add that bit of steel in there, because, like you say, Burnley can be quite direct and quite restless. So I think to stick Herrera in there would be good, and then play Lingard, Martial and Lukaku as the front three. So they're all playing well, so I think I would go with that. I think just one change from my team anyway. I'd stick with Smalling at the back, because he can deal with the aerial balls, and Jones is playing well, so I'd stick with that. My prediction would be 3-1 United. Pretty confident. I think we will score a few goals. Burnley may get one, but yeah, I'm going to go 3-1 United. What do you think, Kieran?
Yeah, I think we'll win. I'm going to err on the side of caution. I'm going to say 2-1. One consistent there is I think we both think Burnley are going to score, because they do pose a threat from set pieces and the direct style of play. But no, I think we'll win. So I'll go 2-1.
Okay, great. So that's the end of the episode, and so I'd like to thank everyone that's listened this week. I hope you all enjoy listening to a different perspective coming from Kieran this week. So yeah, I'd like to thank Kieran for coming on. So thanks, Kieran.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the last time. you've done good, and I've enjoyed it. So
Thank you very much.
we'll be back the same time next week to discuss the Burnley performance and look ahead to the fourth round tie against Yeovil, which is going to be interesting, and it's going to be a double because we play Tottenham midweek. So we'll also look ahead to the Tottenham away at Wembley, and hopefully next week Alexis Sanchez will be a United player. I think between now and next week we'll certainly know whether he's going to be or not. So yeah, hopefully we'll have more on that. So thanks again everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.